I'm absolutely livid.
Hi, my name is Dave CC-Farrell, and we are here joined today by
Brian Zephyro-Messer.
And we are going to be casting the game between Final Light Gaming as well as MD4. MD4 currently on the blue side, meaning they have first pick in this drafting phase. They seem to have banned out Vladimir right off the bat.
So far, there's a lot of healing hate going on in this draft with the Vladimir ban, with the early Vladimir ban, early Soraka ban, Lulu ban. So we're getting a lot of the Ardent Sensor supports banned out right away. Vel'Koz banned out as well. Do you think that was a mid lane targeted ban or a support targeted ban?
It definitely might have been. I think it was support based off research going into the game. It appears that Vel'Koz is actually one of the favored picks of MD4 support, just like Vladimir is one of the favored picks of Final Light's mid laner. And these are targeted picks trying to send and making sure they can't get comfort picks to stabilize themselves in the game.
Malzahar ban.
Malzahar has been seeing a decent amount of play recently, especially with that ult. When you have a channel ult like that, it is extremely good in pick comps because you can lock someone down out of position and away from their team for the rest of your team to just collapse on top of. And unless for some reason you have a Quicksilver Sash, you're not going to be able to escape that.
First pick Sejuani, so really a power pick in the current meta. Really strong. Her passive helps keep her safe. She can't really be bursted down with it. She's very tanky. The Bola gives her a really strong team fighting presence. And we're looking at a potential Janna pick here from Final Light.
Now, what that tells me is they're going to be looking at probably a different one of those passive earlier laner ADCs. We've seen Tristana banned already. What can we expect? Maybe a Twitch, a Kog'Maw?
Potentially a Xayah?
That is another potential.
And there's a Xayah pick. So it's really strong AoE damage coming out from the Xayah. Her blade, people underestimate how much damage a blade collar actually does when they pull it back on their feathers. And it looks Nami pickup, so a strong laner, a favorite of both these support players. And the Cho'Gath coming out, also a powerful pick in the current meta. So I'm seeing a really strong front line coming out from MD4 here.
They are definitely looking to make sure that although that Xayah may get fed, they don't have any of the traditional tank busters on their team that are able to chew through tanks that easily. Xayah may have amazing teamfight presence, but she doesn't quite have the same damage to tanks that a Tristana does.
So this Kayn pick, so I'm going to expect the Darkened coming out of this Kayn. It's really disrupting in team fights. It heals for a lot. A Sivir ban, so that's going to really looking to limit the engage potential because you have two fairly slow champions in terms of Cho'Gath and Sejuani. But that being said, the Sejuani Bola does give strong engage potential on itself as well as the Nami tidal wave. A Gnar ban coming out that again further limits the potential counter engage coming from Final Light, and the last ban is a Twitch.
That really seems to just be making sure that they don't have any way of easily bursting down the team. When Twitch comes out, activating his ult Spray and Pray, we see him decimating entire teams, whether they have a front line or not.
Because with Spray and Pray, he can hit the back line through the front line, and when Twitches get ahead enough, sometimes they do this really aggressive positioning where they just seek to line up and hit both backline members and kill them in 2 shots at the start of the fight. So it's really scary when Twitch actually comes online. So he just pops out of nowhere and one-shots your carries.
Yeah, absolutely. And we saw him banned for a reason, as well as that Sivir, a targeted ban at MD4's AD carry, who does enjoy quite a bit of Sivir. But Caitlyn is another pick for both of these AD carries that they feel comfortable on. Also,
Trundle picked against Cho'Gath. So he's going to steal off Cho'Gath's stats. He's going to heal for a ton from Subjugate because Cho'Gath ends up with a large HP pool to steal from, as well as a strong split push threat from the Trundle once he actually gets his items.
Absolutely, and we may not see a lot of this at the professional level, but Victor is still a very potent pick in this meta. As soon as you start getting that perfect hex core completed, making sure all of your abilities do that just little bit of extra effect more, and then getting that Lichbane means you have immense burst damage, but that Azir counter pick means he is going to be zoned very heavily in those early levels, which is where Azir is going to be trying to take advantage and make sure he can shut down Victor before he can clear entire waves with just one ability.
I feel like we're going back to Season 5 with this mid lane matchup.
Absolutely.
And everybody remembers those periods of just the Victor and Azir matchups in mid for a year and a half. That was something.
Those were absolutely very interesting times, but now Victor is not quite so much at a disadvantage. Both of them are not in their god tier status that they once were at all levels, and we are seeing a point where Azir and Victor have very, very similar ranges. It's all going to be coming down to whether Victor can quickly get his burst off or whether Azir will be able to make the fight continue. Victor may not have bad continued fight damage, but Azir is top of the charts as far as mid lane goes.
Based on these team compositions, I have to feel like Final Light has more damage on their side. But that being said, MD4 has a stronger front line. So is the difference in damage going to be enough to wear down this front line?
One of the huge things that I'm noting is with the strong front line of MD4, they went with Caitlyn, a very long-range ADC, one of the people who is able to get long-range picks towards the back line and do substantial tank damage, even though she is not a traditional tank buster. However, that is countered by Xayah, which the team isn't as tanky, so they're going to be playing a little more forward and have to play a little more dangerously. But Xayah is one of those champions who, when that Bola comes in, when that disruption comes up from Cho'Gath, is going to be able to escape using her ultimate and engage a team fight favorably for Final Light Gaming.
So I'm really looking to see what this Kayn can get done in the early game. He's a very strong early game jungler. He clears the jungle extremely quickly and has a lot of health. He stays really healthy doing it. So I'm expecting him to just be able to eat up his whole jungle really quickly, go mess around in the Sejuani jungle quite a bit. But that being said, he can't spend too much time doing that because if he doesn't actually get his orb and get his transformation, he misses out on a crucial power spike.
Exactly, and that is one of the most interesting things about the Kayn in this matchup in my eyes, is that we are seeing someone who can match Sejuani and maybe even best her as far as coming through the jungle in a very healthy state. But with the recent Sejuani nerfs, she is not as much a queen of the early game. And Kayn is a champion that may be able to stay healthy through jungle, but until he gets that transformation power spike, cannot do as much raw damage to champions. Yep. He's going to need to get those early ganks, get the pressure, and build himself up before he can really build his team up.
And never underestimate the power of Kayn being able to walk through walls. This creates a ton of unexpected gank paths which Kayn can use, which other junglers simply cannot.
And we may be seeing a Nami for the support, but with a Xayah and a Janna, they can definitely go in with that Kayn if he comes through a wall. A top lane matchup of a Cho'Gath can't do a whole lot if Trundle ends up engaging with his pillar and Kayn follows up coming through the wall. And with the different routes being more ganking favor as far as the red side towards bot lane, I would not be surprised if we see a Kayn actually starting with his red buff and rotating down to try to get that early pressure. However, that would end up generally leading towards assassin form. While not bad, it is not going to be the ideal darken form that we're assuming to see out of him.
Kayn is also able to chew up. He's the only champion I've seen that can chew up raptors and stay above 90% HP doing it.
Yes.
Which is ridiculous.
It really is. His AoE clear is incredible and not to be messed with. Sejuani is in all likelihood not even going to consider counter jungling.
No. All that being said, I still think Sejuani should get in that jungle and try to get some deep vision down. Keeping tabs on this Kayn in the early game is going to be very important.
the longer you slow down a Kayn from reaching his transformation, whether it be to Assassin or Darken, the longer you keep him down from having a massive, just straight up stat boost, as well as changing up his abilities so he can execute on his desired strategy far more effectively. Now, what do you think are the current is going to be the current focus from MD4 with that Sejuani pick? Where do you think they're going to be trying to spend most of their focus through this game?
So I think they're going to try to abuse their winning bot lane. They have a Caitlyn Nami. I feel like Caitlyn is going to push down that bottom tier 1 tower really quickly and get a nice early first gold advantage from getting the first tower. Looks like we're into the game here.
And it seems that we are having some very early entrance into the game. We are seeing a large invade towards the river. Neither team ending up taking the aggression. Azir is absolutely awful as far as his level 1 potential, and if they had managed to catch someone like him who had no counterplay opportunities at that level, they could have easily blown a summoner at a minimum.
Especially if Kayn has to start... if Kayn ends up being down there and ends up feeling pressure and has to start E, his ability to go through walls, then his ability to do the early Raptors will be severely hampered because he won't have access to his AoE wave, his clearing ability.
Absolutely. We are seeing a relatively traditional start, looking for some of that earlier vision, but nothing actually ends up coming through as far as invades go. There was a little bit of scouting out, but no one actually pulled the trigger to make one of those plays happen. We're just counting down the clock at this point in time till those minions reach lane and the CSing begins. Looks like we are seeing, in fact, that Kayn in the upper side by the red buff, starting the Raptors for that early level 2. We will see if he ends up going straight to the red buff in order to get that gank off top lane.
I'd also like to point out that since the Kayn started top side, that means that the Xayah and Janna get an early XP advantage because they were in lane first. And the level 2 power spike in the bottom lane at the early game can make a huge impact on how the lane plays out.
Also, we are seeing Victor taking his E first mid lane, meaning he's looking to try to push this Azir in early levels to try to get a little bit of a CS advantage and a little bit of a damage advantage.
Gank top.
We see the Kayn quickly coming in, using his Q to dive in and damage some of that Cho'Gath, but no summoners were blown. Cho'Gath did have to burn Flash, trying to get out of that situation. Didn't want to take too much aggro and lose too much pressure in lane. Willing to blow that 5-minute cooldown in order to maintain that ability to keep up in lane with a Trundle.
It's the power of that early Kayn gank path. Goes right through the wall. It's really hard to ward for that. Because even if you ward in the brush there, he can simply Q over the wall and then go through from where the blast cone is.
Absolutely, and from what we've seen of this Kayn, he is definitely looking to make the plays. He comes in mid, going for a solo attack on this Victor, getting the advantage. Azir going in with a soldier, forces Victor to pop his flash. Victor leaves that area, still very low health. Both summoners on cooldown. Azir with both of his left intact.
It's just so easy for this Kayn to go from top to mid, and Victor just didn't respect that. He had to burn both summoners to make it out.
And again, while Kayn has been getting these advantages in lane, Sejuani is still currently leveling up and focusing her efforts on getting a gold advantage over this Kayn so she can do more later. Kayn may have the early initiative advantage, but this Sejuani is not afraid to just trust her laners and hold out a little while longer till she can make those ganks pay dividends with her full combo, as well as the tank stats to not worry about her own life.
So Sejuani went the standard tracker's knife on this, which for Sejuani is usually the best option because as a tank you want to contribute more towards the vision game. Wards and vision control win games.
We are seeing a little bit of a skirmish bot lane. Looks like Xayah was narrowly able to evade the Nami bubble, and that seems like it's a relatively even trade. Slight advantage to MD4 with that Caitlyn. Those headshots coming in extremely critical for those fights.
I'd like to see this Kayn move up and make some return ganks to the mid or the top lane, because they're both down their flashes. He burns summoners. It should be a relatively easy return gank for him at some point.
Yeah, and I would not be surprised to see that at all. He's rotating through his jungle. He hasn't backed yet. Sejuani has. That means if it comes to a counter gank situation, she will have an immense advantage in that scenario due to the item disparity between the two. And right now, it seems that the lanes are staying relatively even. One of the things that is of note is the fact that Victor did have to back, and Azir did as well. Both of them are very close to the same levels of gold, and it seems that Victor is lagging, has a little more unspent gold than Azir does, which means Azir has a minuscule advantage in lane. But the trading between the two is going very even because neither of them has a significant range advantage or a significant early game advantage.
The Azir is also packing Cleanse this game. I'm assuming this is for the Sejuani ultimate, most likely. And the Azir's packing Exhaust, which makes sense considering he's going to have a Kayn all over him for most of this game.
Yeah, and with the Exhaust that the Victor is taking, it also serves a double purpose against that Azir. Azir is a very, very damage per second champion, not a burst one. Meaning if you can drop that Exhaust on him, you're not going to have to worry about whether or not you're dropping it before the burst. Ooh. We're seeing an ult come out of Azir, both the Kayn and Azir mid lane, and Azir secures first blood with an auto attack at the last second before he gets stunned up by Victor's W.
Beautiful play by the Azir. He burned Flash to get behind the Victor, uses ultimate to push him back away from his own tower. And since he was down Flash, it was a very easy return gank for the Kayn to come in and collect that first blood gold for his mid laner.
Absolutely. We are seeing a little bit of an advantage being pushed by Caitlyn due to that power in the traps. When she can end up starting to zone the enemy ADC, it's going to be hard for Xayah to maintain wave pressure because she'll either have to choose to let the minions go under her turret and have the turret take damage and possibly miss CS, or she's going to have to take some damage from Caitlyn trying to prevent that from happening.
The Kayn went Blue Smite. This is completely standard on Kayn because the Blue Smite allows you to proc a source of damage onto the target, allowing you to ulti into whoever you smited. It gives him a way to use his ultimate on somebody who is out of the range of any of his basic abilities.
And that is definitely going to be coming in very importantly, as he is now level 6 with access to that ultimate ability. He looks to be making a play up top, but Cho'Gath ends up catching him with one of the wards he places and backing out. I think Cho'Gath understands the situation he's in and is continuing to play under the tower because of it.
It looks like Final Light is setting up to contest MD4's blue buff, which will be really strong. Denying a blue buff from a Victor is huge.
Absolutely. With Victor having so much power in his E, which is a very expensive ability as far as mana cost goes, that is something that Victors all over the world pray each night that their jungler will give them that blue buff. And if that can end up going over to the Kayn or Azir, that is that much more lane pressure that the Victor loses. Oh. We see another ult coming out of Azir. Kayn coming in again. Looks like he's waiting for Azir to finish. Victor is in a lot of trouble, and Azir quickly sweeps up with the Q, ending up getting another kill on the Victor.
I feel like that was a mistake from the Victor to hold on to his flash there when he saw the Azir coming in. It was the same play that happened previously. This time he had flash, so he should have been able to avoid the knockback coming in.
But again, Azir is able to make those very, very fast plays. And that is something that we are seeing come through very importantly from Final Light Gaming, as they are taking the advantage of this game with almost a 1k gold lead. And it seems that a large amount of that gold lead is centered in mid lane, with almost a 900 gold lead for that Azir, putting him that much further ahead than Victor. He's losing so much pressure to this Azir, it's going to be hard for Victor to recover.
Top lane is also winning for Trundle over the Cho'Gath. But the one redeeming fact for MD4 here is that they do have a winning and pushing bot lane. This Caitlyn is up 14 CS over this Xayah.
And that is exceedingly important. One of the big problems right now for MD4 is the fact that their Caitlyn is pushing. While that is a huge advantage in damage and pressure, it is not going to make it very easy for kills to come through until Sejuani hits a little bit more tankier of a point. Now that she has that now that she has, I'm blanking on the name of the item, that health item with her looking to get that Cinderhawk enchantment on the her jungle item, it's going to make her durable enough with that passive to end up being able to tank for those turret dives that we are hoping to see bot lane in order to get MD4 ahead. And we are seeing some engagement come through. A quick trade by Xayah ends up netting a small benefit against them in favor of Final Light. But Nami quickly heals up the damage, and Caitlyn is definitely not about to let that end up going down. Sejuani is fighting Kayn and Azir. We see Azir, Emperor's Divide come through, and he takes the kill on the Sejuani. Victor trying to look for something at the end of this fight. We see Victor drop his ult on Azir, but he's not quite able to get anything. Azir with that gold lead, getting even more damage on that Victor, making Victor either back out of lane or have to play exceedingly safely, worrying about this. Kayn engage with the W, finishing him off. Victor drops his W, but it's not in time, and Kayn slips right out of his fingers.
Another huge play from Final Light. They caught the Sejuani walking into ward and was able to catch him, to push him further out of position with the Emperor's Divide, and then put a huge amount of damage on kill the Sejuani before the Victor could rotate in to support his jungler.
And that is absolutely the case. We are seeing some phenomenal playmaking due to the vision control that Final Light seems to have over this game. Not only is that the case, but we are seeing quite a bit of action, just slow pressure being gained by Final Light in lanes such as the Trundle-Cho'Gath matchup. It may not be swinging as wildly as mid lane, but it is consistently beginning to favor Trundle more and more. 20 CS lead, that's about a kills disparity in gold.
This Caitlyn might be up a whole lot, 20 CS over the Xayah, but despite having a pushing bottom lane and a winning bottom lane, they aren't putting the damage down on that tower like they should be. So having a Caitlyn that's winning bottom lane isn't enough. When you pick this pick, you expect to get the first tower blood and get that bonus gold to help snowball your team.
And the fact that they're pushing makes it very hard for Sejuani to gank. We might be seeing Sejuani try to clear Scuttle Crab and rotate mid, but with Victor being down so far, it wouldn't surprise me if this has to either be executed perfectly by MD4, or else Azir will either slip through their fingers, or Victor will end up falling in the process of getting that kill.
Sejuani clearing out vision in the mid lane, which opens up gank paths.
We do see that Cho'Gath up top trying to prevent that Kayn gank by going in and taking out the Blast Cone before Kayn has an opportunity to use it in an escape. We see a gank once again mid. Azir ult, Emperor's Divide coming through. Kayn coming in. Sejuani ult drops onto Azir. Azir ends up falling to the Sejuani. A quick teleport in by that Cho'Gath with an ultimate dropped on that Kayn secures some kills finally for MD4. And that is exactly what they needed to begin breaking in this game. But they're still paying for it in the fact that Trundle, still top lane, goes in and secures that first tower.
This time, MD4 was ready to counter on the same play being made consistently mid. They had the TP come in from the Cho'Gath, and Sejuani was in the area for the counter gank. The Victor still got exploded, but they were able to get 2 return kills back. Cho'Gath also got a feast stack. That being said, they also and they unfortunately gave up the first brick gold to the tower, or to the...
We are seeing a fight come through here. Nami ult disengages from that Xayah, who is looking to try to force a fight. Sejuani is about half health, and she is not looking to engage on this fight. Looks like her ult is still down as the red team, Final Light Gaming, successfully grabbed the first Drake of the game.
Stolen by Caitlyn.
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed that. Caitlyn with, I'm presuming, a headshot, sneaking that dragon kill away from Final Light. And that is actually going to be another way that MD4 can edge themselves back in.
That cheeky Piltover Peacemaker from over the wall, stealing that away from Kayn. It's great.
And that is fantastic. With a Drake like that, what does that mean as far as what MD4 can do?
So an early Ocean Drake is great for the laning stage because it allows you to sustain a bit in the lane and you don't have to go back to base as much. That additionally, with a Caitlyn composition, they want to group up in Siege at some point in this game, and the added health regen will really help them with that. Completed Infinity Edge for Caitlyn. Big power spike. If she gets a lucky headshot crit off of a trap, you're going to be looking at the chunking probably anywhere from 30 to half of one of the bot laners' health out with one shot.
I completely agree, and we are seeing a Morellonomicon from Azir, which is going to be giving him that flexibility in order to get the soldiers rearranged and out more frequently, as well as the damage to back that up. Azir has, since his rework, very much shifted more into a meta-style build, especially early game. Meanwhile, Victor may have that perfect tech score, but he does not have a Lich Bane as of yet, and that is his huge power spike as far as his ability to counterburst people.
Titanic Hydra finished for Trundle.
Looks like Trundle now, due to that, will have an advantage in the side lane pushing. We are seeing an ult come out from Nami and a bubble, but both of them miss as Xayah cleverly sidesteps, just wasting more of MD4's time.
She even still had both her summoners as well as the Featherstorm available, so... plenty of escape tools if she needed it.
Very well played by Xayah, and that solidly gives them a small advantage in lane until Nami's ult comes back up. Looks like there is a fight going down mid, and we see Azir having to run away. Trundle with 2 stacks of Sejuani's stun on him, but it is not completed, as we see a small trade happen bot lane going in favor of MD4 as expected.
So I feel like it's concerning how Final Light's team is winning early, and they have such powerful damage scaling in terms of their damage dealers this game. Xayah and Azir both scale exceptionally well and will put out massive damage later on in this game. And
I completely agree. And while the Xayah may not be doing phenomenally, she does have that protection. And it looks like a fight is coming in. We see it net onto the Janna with a headshot. Janna is looking low, but she still has access to her ultimate. No further engage tools are used as both junglers are in the bot side. We are seeing a Trundle versus Cho'Gath matchup. Cho'Gath looks to get a little damage and disengage with a pillar separating those two. Pillar drops, and we see Cho'Gath silence, taking damage from Trundle's auto attacks and bite, slowly gnawing away at his health.
I feel like that exchange top is going to be the story of this game. This Trundle is going to split push, and once he gets a couple more items, I don't see anybody that's going to be able to stop him on the side of MD4.
One thing that you will have to look at is he may be able to do a lot of damage, but if he can be kited back, that Caitlyn can still tear into him, especially now that they have IE. We're also looking at presumably a Runan's Hurricane from this Caitlyn in order to get those attacks on multiple targets as well, and really chew through Final Light.
Meanwhile, Kayn is building up towards a Black Cleaver. He has his Warrior finished as well, so based on the build, this is almost certainly going to be a Darkened form Kayn.
We will just have to wait slightly longer for confirmation, as we have not yet seen him go back to base and transform himself. But no, we have. It is officially a Darkened form Kayn. I must have missed the transformation sequence, but we are definitely going to be seeing him try to focus and upset that tank front line and give Final Light a little bit of room to breathe.
I'd like to to commend the bottom lane from Final Light. They're doing an exceptional job of holding on to their tower despite being up against the heavy pushing lane like Caitlyn and Nami.
And that is very, very accurate. And that goes to show the coordination of these two, as well as the power of Janna shields.
Yeah.
When Janna has the ability to help Xayah absorb incoming damage that might be thrown in through aggression on from the Caitlyn, or any aggression that's thrown from the Caitlyn or minions onto the tower with her shield, we are seeing an ability to sustain in lane matchups that are very disadvantageous. We are seeing a little bit of a wet noodle fight up top lane, as both of the champions seem to be thwacking each other, but due to their large health bars, nothing seems to come of it. Kayn is ganking bot, does a dive and attempted knock up onto the Caitlyn. Flash burn, teleport coming in down bot. Sejuani and Victor sweeping in. Will they be making a play? Looks like we are seeing a little bit of action from that Trundle Cho'Gath, but nothing ends up going down either top or bot. And it's null for both teams except for that Caitlyn flash burned just a few moments ago.
And a Earth Dragon is coming up really soon. The increased siege and objective damage will be really huge if the side of MD4 can get it. I really feel like the Caitlyn composition wants to have that Mountain Drake. It'll assist with their sieging heavily.
And you are very, very right about that. We are seeing the Trundle and Cho'Gath both up top. Sejuani dropping ultimate, looking for the stacks on the Trundle. He fail flashes over the wall, and we see him just waiting. Still has health, but will Cho'Gath end up going for it? Oh, he ends up picking up the Sejuani on the back end of the fight, but he's not tanky enough and not durable enough to survive the Cho'Gath spikes. We are looking at Kayn coming in mid. He ends up going for a dash dive with his looks like Kayn is stuck under tower. Dives onto Victor. Will he be able to get out? He's out from under tower. We see Xayah roaming up, making it so Victor can't counter engage. Azir comes in from the side. He drops a soldier, and Victor takes more and more damage, almost getting the Kayn down, but not quite able to secure it due to that clever escape plan by the Darkin.
Insane action going on across the map here. We had in the top lane, the Sejuani and Cho'Gath seriously underestimated the amount of healing that was going to come out of the Subjugate, as well as the amount of damage that Trundle was able to output. And mid lane, the Darkin was able to use his ultimate to escape from under the tower from almost certain death.
And we are seeing a bubble come in on Azir. Victor looking to finish it off, and he does! Now that he has some of that extra damage, he is successfully able to finish Azir. We see the Darkin beginning to be cut off, dives over the wall, throws his W out. Looks like Cho'Gath took the blast cone over, and he has Rupture. He's not able to use it. Janna caught out as well. Looks like she has to use Monsoon as well as Tornado to escape that fight, but just barely with her life, having to throw on her shield just to make sure she would get out alive.
And the most important thing here is that the Mountain Drake was picked up by Final Light. This is really going to help the Trundle with his split push take down those towers.
Darkin form, Kayn coming in, and it's looking like this is a dead Caitlyn. Caitlyn burns barrier, but it's definitely not enough against the likes of Xayah and Kayn together.
The kill went to the Xayah. Xayah is on the board. Xayah is rolling. This is going to be huge for her later on in this game when it's looking like she's going to be one of the primary damage dealers for her team, and they will really need that damage in order to cut through this monstrous beefy front line that is the Cho'Gath Sejuani.
And you are absolutely right. What we are seeing, though, is she is still a smidgen of gold behind this Caitlyn, which is going to give the Caitlyn and her approximately the same footing. But at this point in the game, Caitlyn and her are both hitting power spikes. The real question is, which one do you think is going to be the more powerful or more valuable 2-item power spikes? They both have a crit item, they both have a attack speed, and they have a damage crit and an attack speed crit item.
At this stage in the game, on a 2 items, I think Caitlyn has the edge. But later on in this game, Xayah will 100% output more damage.
We are seeing the Trundle go in. Nami ult is burned. Azir is dropping some soldiers in the fight. Looks like Trundle is looking for an engage. He has burned his ultimate, has so much health in his pool, and he just keeps on pushing forward. Damage coming through onto him. Flash is burned by MD4. Looks like Darkin form is in the midst of the fight, ends up picking up 2 kills. Ember's Divide comes through, but it does not end up securing an additional kill as it goes wide, and the final members of MD4 successfully walk away from the fight, but not without significant losses. One of those losses likely being the Baron.
At this stage in the game, that Trundle is just so tanky and extremely hard to actually take down. He gets so much healing back from the Subjugate, and I don't see an Executioner's Collar or a Mortal Reminder being finished yet by the Caitlyn.
And that is going to be incredibly important as this game moves forward. Are we going to see any way for the Caitlyn to actually respond to what the Trundle is doing? Because if Caitlyn cannot mow down that singular frontline target that is on Final Light Gaming's side, then the rest of MD4 is going to suffer for it, as Trundle can continuously push into the team and have massive survivability.
So what I really want to see here is a source of Grievous Wounds picked up by MD4. I really feel like the healing coming off of Subjugate is a huge problem, especially because he just uses Subjugate on the Cho'Gath and gets such a ridiculous amount of health coming back from it. And speaking of split pushing, the Baron is going to allow this Trundle to get a ton of work done. As you see in the bottom, he's able to get a tower.
We are seeing an engage from this Cho'Gath. Looks like Sejuani ult comes out on the Darkin.
Trundle
Darkin
TP.
on top of that Sejuani, looking to try to get the engage. Trundle coming in, but he's in the middle of Victor's W. Caitlyn landing shot after shot, but it's not doing much. He ends up ulting the Sejuani, getting so much health back. Caitlyn is trying to stay at the edges of the fight, focusing on that Trundle, able to slowly lower his health, but it's still above half, and he heals with every auto attack. That's going to be a loss, as Cho'Gath did fall on MD4's side, and Final Light have the advantage as the team fight continues. Looks like there's not going to be much pushed outside of the first turret, but Azir passive is coming in to prepare for that siege.
At this stage in the game, the Xayah Azir damage is just too high for this Cho'Gath to mitigate. He's taking too much damage and melting too quickly in the front line.
Baron empowered recalls successfully helping some of Final Light avoid getting caught by that Victor and his impressive burst damage at this point in the game. While Victor may be able to burst, he does not yet have the consistent damage that you are going to need in order to take out someone as survivable in a team fight as Trundle.
And crucially, there's still no Grievous Wounds source on this MD4 lineup unless Trundle goes and smacks Cho'Gath.
And that is very, very accurate. One of the important things that we're going to be hoping to see is that Caitlyn with an armor-piercing item, because if she can get that Grievous Wounds applied and therefore effectively slow down Trundle's healing, it will also help shred him when he steals all of those health and all of those armor stats from his Subjugate target.
This Trundle is just too huge to deal with right now.
We see some engage. Cho'Gath is caught out, and he is taken down by the Xayah, Darkin, and Azir, with Janna backing them up.
I really love the fact that they picked Trundle and Kayn for this matchup. Cho'Gath gets so much HP, and both of those champions gain health based on how much HP they use their spells on the target they use their spells has. So if Cho'Gath has 4,000 HP, the Trundle and the Kayn are just going to heal for an absolutely absurd amount.
And that is definitely very, very huge for Final Light Gaming, which means they had an incredible team comp lineup just in the draft phase, and they are executing on it exceedingly well.
Infernal Drake is up.
Looks like No Vision was in the bush, but Sejuani was a little hesitant. Looks like Anami ult comes out in order to try to catch something out. Look, no successful pick by MD4 as the Infernal Drake is about to fall to Final Light Gaming.
The extra AD AP here is going to make the situation even worse for MD4.
And with this Azir, he is starting to reach critical mass in the point he now has Rylai's. It is harder than ever to escape from him. Whether that be the Sejuani trying to walk away, the Cho'Gath, or even one of the squishier people, he now has the damage and the sustainability of that damage. Plus, with his CDR and his slows, it is going to be very hard to even walk away from his oncoming army.
Redemption finished for Janna, as well as both supports have their Ardent Sensor finished.
Ardent Sensor has been huge recently, especially as an early game rush. While it has lost a significant amount of power this patch, it still is an item that is essential for most ADCs to function competitively, just because of how much extra early game pressure in attack speed and magic on hit damage that it does.
I don't, Righteous Glory on Cho'Gath gives such insane chase potential, so that if a engage goes poorly for Final Light here, we can expect a very strong counter engage coming from MD4.
That is completely true, and the big thing in my mind that would cause an engage to go poorly for Final Light is that Trundle. If they can catch him out and not lose a member in the process, they will have a massive advantage when it comes to the team fight. Unfortunately for MD4, that Trundle is now surrounded by his allies who are not going to let him fall by split pushing while MD4 rotates in.
Considering that Trundle has teleport, I think that Trundle should be in a lane pushing right now in a split push scenario with good vision around him. But that being said, MD4 has a super strong set of control wards set up in their bot side jungle, which would make getting vision control down there pretty difficult.
Yeah, and we are seeing a little bit of aggro coming in from Final Light Gaming, who's trying to see if they can get anything as far as picks inside their enemy's jungle, but they were not able to get anything. A tightly knit group by, looks like Trundle is going on top of the Caitlyn, falls on a Caitlyn trap and loses a lot. Nami has to ult in order to get him to back off, but it seems that he has lost about half his health. Ooh. It's hard to say whether he used Subjugate or not. It does appear he has used Subjugate and not on a tank target. That's going to be a huge vulnerability for Final Light if this fight is pushed by MD4.
That being said, all spells are burnt off the Nami. The Tidal Wave is down, the heal's down, the Flash is down. All of her big cooldowns have been spent.
We are seeing this Victor trying to end up getting a pick on this Kayn that is continuing to try to get a little bit more poke in on MD4.
I really feel like this Caitlyn needs to get a Mortal Reminder for her next item. They need some type of armor pen, and the Grievous Wounds will be really helpful in taking down both this Kayn as well as the Trundle.
That is 100% correct. If they do not build that item, I think they are essentially making it about 3 times as hard on themselves as far as their chances of winning this game. It is significantly leaning in favor of Final Light Gaming at this moment, but if they are able to get that Grievous Wounds applied onto Trundle and onto Kayn, we are going to be seeing a massive swing in the direction these team fights can go.
Guardian Angel finished on Kayn.
That's going to make him so much harder to kill. Not only does he have an amazing amount of escape potential by slipping through walls, by jumping on top of people, and then exiting in any direction he chooses, but he now has the ability to come back to life after you finally worn through all that. That's pretty much a Kayn's dream come true.
On the plus side, MD4 has finished a Lich Bane on Victor. Ton of extra damage coming out on his empowered right click after he uses his Q.
Yeah, that auto attack after Q is exceedingly powerful. We're talking about an ability that, as far as burst damage, is comparable to Kassadin and his W as far as his Netherblade ability when you stack that Lich Bane on top of it as well, which also can be applied from a range. It may not quite have the same damage potential, but it is still very much up there in regards to what it can do to a squishier target.
Yes. And it looks like Final Light is clearing out vision and setting up for a potential Baron.
Looks like there is not a whole lot of action going down either way. Plays are being set up for, but no one has pulled the trigger as MD4 edges closer and pushes in on Final Light Gaming. There may be some action if their carries slip further forward for MD4, in which case Final Light would very likely swing in over that Raptor wall. But it seems that the carries have backed off and the plans have changed once again.
Looks like they're trying to sneak the Baron from over the wall.
This is going to be tricky.
Beautiful play.
This is going down very fast in favor of Final Light, but it looks like MD4 has caught wind of it. They are rotating up there. It is successfully secured by
TP from Shogath.
TP from Shogath is coming in,
Home guards.
and we are seeing numerous people converge on the same location. Ult from Sejuani comes out. We are seeing a lot of burst damage dropped onto that Kayn. Will he fall? Not quite. He still has his Guardian Angel as he is forced to burn that. Azir burned Emperor's Divide and is looking to end up trying to escape Sejuani in the middle of the fight. Kayn ends up falling a second time. Azir trying to get damage onto Victor. Victor trying to dodge around it, and he is not able to prevail against the massive damage coming through from the Emperor of the Saints.
But at what cost? The Trundle is on the Nexus.
The Trundle with that incredible split push knocked down both Nexus turrets coming in from the bot lane with an incredible split push. Azir taking full advantage of the
Gets killed by
scenario,
Nami.
gets knocked down by Nami, but he disrupted the abilities of Sejuani and Victor to be in that fight for so long. It gained them so much. They actually not only won the fight, but they won the map pressure as well in a 4v5 scenario where their Trundle, their main tank, was not in the game.
Excellent split push coming from the Trundle. I'm going to say that's 100% worth. They got an inhibitor down, 2 Nexus towers, and they still have the Baron buff on the Trundle to work with.
That is so true. We are seeing the Baron buff come through, and it looks like the Trundle is trying to get some damage in, but Caitlyn is starting to hurt more and more with that attack speed going crazy high with 2 attack speed crit items on top of that IE.
Completed Thornmails on Shogath and Sejuani.
They are really looking to shut down the healing on that Trundle.
I feel like Xayah really needs a lifesteal item at this point, or she's just going to take a lot of damage trying to burn down these tanks. It looks like she's building towards a Blade of the Ruined King right now.
That will be incredibly essential for her as she desires to sustain in the fights as well. And the lifesteal on that is exceedingly important.
As well as the percentage-based damage, HP damage. Shogath gets a huge HP pull, so it'll add a whole lot more damage here. I actually think the Bork is a better choice this game than the Bloodthirster.
That I can completely get behind. Besides, it not only boosts the damage as well as the percent health damage, but it also gives a nice attack speed boost, something that Xayah really likes, especially when she can give herself an additional attack speed steroid and throw out those feathers lightning fast. We are seeing some engagement or preparation for engagement by Final Light Gaming as that Azir tower is dropped in the mid lane. Ooh, Nami ult coming out, and the Sejuani ult goes wide. He drops his Emperor's Divide, but not before falling and catching no one in the process. Looks like Sejuani is taking up quite a bit of that Azir turret damage, but Redemption comes down and heals the Team MD4 up back very nicely. Cho'Gath versus Trundle going on. Cho'Gath now with Thornmail able to end up doing a little more against this Trundle.
I feel like the Azir was tunneling a little bit there on how much damage he put onto that Caitlyn. He mispositioned a little bit and was punished for it.
And while it was clever of him to try to re-engage to dodge the Sejuani ultimate, it still put him in a position of extreme vulnerability as he was closer to their team when he was knocked up, meaning they were easily able to collapse in on him and take him out while preserving their Caitlyn.
Look how much health this Trundle has. It's ridiculous.
When Trundles build full tank, you have to remember that not only do they have the ability to steal damage from the targets that they are attacking and biting, they also have the ability, which is very important, to survive in fights, and complementing their massive health pool that he's built with the armor of his opponents.
He also has a Warmog, so any poke that he takes before the fight or during his split push, he just has to retreat a little bit and he'll heal up really quickly and be able to come right back in to apply the pressure.
At this point in time, I believe it is very safe to say that Trundle has officially achieved the raid boss status, where it will take nearly the entire team working together to take him down. And still then, there might be a casualty.
He's also flamed horizoned his opposing top laner.
That is incredible, as he has been split pushing so much this game, and while Cho'Gath has been countering, the 100 CS advantage that Trundle has is making him have a gold lead relatively significantly, as you can see over that Shogoth, specifically a 4,000 gold.
He is the richest person in this game by a significant amount.
When you CS all game, it doesn't matter if your teammates are getting kills because you have so much gold just from that continued lane presence.
Now we're getting to the ultra super late game here, where we're looking at the carries 5 items, working on their 6th item. I really feel like the damage output from the Xayah Azir is just going to be miles ahead of the Caitlyn Victor.
Yes, especially when you look back at the gold. We see the 1,000 gold advantage has barely shrunk, but Azir still leads it by 800. And when we look at the bot lane matchup, the Xayah may have less gold, but the effect her feathers have on the battlefield is absolutely incredible. And we're talking about the ability to get through tanks that cannot heal versus one that is able to steal life to an insane amount.
As well as the root coming out of it. It's a huge AoE root when she casts the Blade Caller, as well as a large unexpected burst of damage that, if you're not paying attention to the feathers on the ground, can really catch you off guard.
We are seeing another fight back in this lane. No one has successfully gotten any ground. Cho'Gath pushing Trundle away from tower. Looks like Final Light Gaming is looking to try to get more pressure in top lane, seeing if they can get a siege going on that inhibitor turret in top.
Baron spawning in 30 seconds, and Final Light already has vision control in the top side jungle of MD4, so I feel like it would be a nice natural transition for them to go take the Baron.
That is very, very true. And we are seeing a short back from Xayah.
Blade of the Rune King finished.
Blade of the Rune King finished. That is a huge power spike in favor of Final Light's AD carry. And what we are expecting is, as you mentioned, that Baron is spawning right now. Again, this is going to be something that the teams will play around. If for some reason Final Light lose a fight, they can count on MD4 quickly securing that Baron, especially if that Caitlyn is still around.
That being said, they can't take Baron if Cho'Gath is anywhere near, because the Feast can secure the Baron from far outside smite range.
And that is something that they will have to be very careful for. Azir with the massive damage on his Q and auto attack, getting that TLD proc and doing so much damage to that Caitlyn. Caitlyn fortunately does have innate lifesteal, it seems, and is slowly starting to heal back up. She probably has that in her runes and masteries, and Nami is there to assist with that as well.
I think she's running Warlords this game.
I think
you usually take that when you run when you go with a static shiv and
Caitlyn ult did come out at Azir, knocking him lower. He only has about a third or a fourth of his HP left. He's gonna have to back. That's gonna be a huge fight presence, not in the game for Final Light, as MD4 is quickly taking advantage of this one-man extra they have and knocking down an inner turret mid.
Elder Dragon's also live. Both cubes neutral monsters are available to be taken.
And I'm wondering if we are going to see either a team fight happening at Baron very, very shortly, or whether we're going to see 2 different objectives taken at the same time.
At this stage in the game, death timers are so long that if any team decisively wins a fight, the game is just going to end.
But these teams are essentially potent enough that they can force fights and continue them, sometimes barely losing a single member, despite how the fights can go on for over 30 seconds.
Those massive front lines that have access to such strong ability to heal themselves up after the fight.
And that is something that both teams are going to be having to be very wary of, as both teams have that massive front line. The question is, which one will end up taking the advantage in the fight, and which one will end up bursting the other's backline first? Because if you can get through there are 2 win conditions in these team fights. 1, can you get through the enemy team's front line before they get through yours? That's a win condition, because then their squishy members, their damage dealing members, are exposed to you. Number 2, can you eliminate their damage-dealing members before the fight even starts? And that is the gambit of an assassin, and that is what teams pray they can do but most of the time it is far safer to attempt to take down the opponent's tank before they end up finishing yours.
Crucially, the Mortal Reminder finished on Caitlyn. This is going to cut down the healing and severely hamper the sustain-based tanks that exist from Team Final Light.
And one of the very important things, we are seeing some engagement. Kane trying to go through the wall, locked up by Sejuani. We are seeing Emperor's Divide come through, lots of damage on the back line. Fortunately for MD4, Azir falls. Looks like Caitlyn has Kane on top of her. Cho'Gath in the middle of 3 of the members of Final Light ends up going down. But it seems like Caitlyn is taking a lot of damage from Kane, trying to kite backwards. Unsuccessful. Looks like Sejuani has not much health left. Victor trying to run away. Looks like Trundle ult comes in. Victor trying to lock up with his stun, but Gravity Well is not able to prevent the Xayah from getting on top of him and finishing him with an auto attack.
That Trundle just took next to no damage in that back line. There was the Caitlyn was not able to output enough damage in that fight to save it. The beautiful Emperor's Divide coming out pushed all of the backliners from Team MD4 out into a vulnerable position where they could take a ton of damage from Team Final Light.
And that is completely accurate. I thought with the Azir death early in the fight, that would be a significant advantage in MD4's favor, but Final Light swung the fight, taking advantage of their Kane and their Trundle to get on top of the tank and the squishies and knock them down without there being a whole lot of chance for MD4 to escape.
I really feel like one of the big deciding factors here was how late the consistent source of grievous wounds came out from Team MD4. The Trundle was just healing for too much in team fights and they couldn't take him down. I think that if they had a source of grievous wounds earlier in the game, they could have killed this Trundle before he became such an unkillable monster later in the games.
And that is something that we are hoping to see focused and paid more attention to in the next games in the series. Now, I'm going to ask you this. Who do you think was the MVP that game?
MVP that game is definitely, I think it was the Trundle. He created so much pressure in the side lanes. He was able to get both Nexus turrets and an inhibitor turret in a trade when they lost the fight after securing that Baron.
I would have to completely agree. His pressure that game was paramount to the victory of Final Light Gaming. MD4 is definitely going to be looking to respond in kind next game, knowing the strategies that Final Light has in store for them. We are going to be taking a short break as the teams take a moment to discuss strategy and prepare for the next game. So we will see you again very shortly.
Always rearranging. That is constantly changing. Always rearranging. Always rearranging. Constantly changing, always rearranging, always rearranging, always rearranging. That is constantly changing, always rearranging, always rearranging, always rearranging.
you should do that still.
I'm absolutely.
Okay, hi guys. We're back with the second match of the Final Light Gaming and MD4 match. We're going to go straight into bans. Right now we have a Vlad and a Vel'Koz ban, 2 Vs going in first.
The same bans from last game. I really feel like these are targeted bans towards the opposing mid laners.
Right. And that kind of makes a lot of sense, especially with Vel'Koz, because of the fact that you can do a lot in terms of a team comp around a Vel'Koz. And
the Trundle ban comes out. The Trundle did so much work in that last game that I just feel like that MD4 just didn't want to deal with it this game.
Right. No, that definitely is something that if you know how to handle a Trundle with your team comp, you're perfectly fine. But if you don't have a way to counter that Trundle pick, you're not going to have a good time. So you might as well get rid of that. Makes life for you that much easier.
Lulu banned out. Powerful support pick. Really helps to keep their somebody alive on their team. Usually their AD carry, but sometimes it could be the mid laner. Depends on who gets more ahead and needs to peel more.
Right. And we also have a Victor ban as well as
a Tristana ban.
As well as a Tristana ban. So we got the first 3 bans on both teams. The first pickup is going to be Sejuani for the blue team, i.e. MD4.
We've seen a Sejuani pick last game. I didn't really feel like it did too much that game, but let's see if this game they can turn it around and get more done with it. Okay,
and it looks like Final Light's going to be picking up that J4, and we'll see what this next pick is about to be.
Better question is that a top lane Jarvan or a jungle Jarvan? I'm gonna assume jungle because I really feel like he's stronger in the jungle role. He has some very nasty ganks. If you are caught without having flash and he has Cataclysm available, you are in some deep trouble.
Okay.
Jonathan coming through. Offers a ton of disengage and peel for an AD carry. The shielding helps keep them alive, as well as it's excellent to proc Ardent Sensor across the entire team.
Right, and it kind of looks like there's starting to be a little bit of you're starting to get a little bit of an idea as to what Final Light might be starting to put together here. J4 and Jaina kind of imply that there's definitely going to be more of a washing machine effect where J4 goes ahead and ults, and Jaina goes ahead and buffs a few people, and all of the washing in the crater all of a sudden kind of happens. Going back to MD4's team, they go ahead and pick up a Nami. So Nami and Sejuani, that also kind of implies there's going to be a little bit of a chase going on.
So far, it's the same picks that MD4 ran last game.
Right.
In every position. But this time, they crucially banned out the Trundle.
Right.
Which will hopefully give this Cho'Gath a much better matchup in the top lane.
Yeah, could possibly lead to a much better matchup. Depends on whether or not they go for someone like a Fiora or a Gnar, and it looks like they're going for the Fiora. So
looks like Final Light is really sticking to their guns and wants to play another split push strategy. The Fiora has scaling true damage in her passive and ultimate, which allows her to cut through this Cho'Gath no matter how much HP he has. It's percentage based.
Right. And we have the next 2 bans. We're going to have a Malzahar and a Xayah go through. As well as a Sivir. In all honesty, that's a really good ban for Final Light because the way things are going for MD4, Sivir would have been the ultimate engage tool for their team. Nami would have ulted, Sivir would have ulted and got everyone in close, and that's when Sejuani would essentially cut loose, and whoever their ADC, well, yeah, that would have been their ADC, but whoever their top, what are they missing? Mid? Whatever their mid laner would have been, that would have definitely made things kind of perfect. So
this time, the Caitlyn is picked up by Final Light. Caitlyn Janna, one of the classic pushing bot lane powers. The Janna gives Caitlyn more AD to push with, and it really helps shred down those towers. That being said, we're looking at a potential Jinx pick here. Jinx is no slouch to tearing down towers herself, also scales exceptionally well in the late game, and has a really long-range auto attack, which helps keep her safe.
Right. And looks like we're also going to get this last pick here. What is the mid laner for MD4 going to be? It looks like it's going to be Echo.
Echo.
which kind of makes
assassination potential coming through.
Right.
We're going to see a ton of magic damage and some dive coming in to try to get rid of this Caitlyn.
And again, that was a really good ban by Final Light because I think they started to recognize what was about to happen. I can't imagine anything good happening if MD4 actually got a severe.
This mid lane is going to be explosive. This is a really good game lane going on. I personally when I play this matchup, I prefer to be on the side of Echo because if you get the fish latched onto you, you can simply use your ultimate when the fish is about to pop and take no damage from it. It severely limits Fizz's opportunity to burst you. That being said, Fizz has a lot of unexpected damage that comes out of his W. It always catches me off guard, but I'm not as good as these players, so we'll see what happens.
Okay. Nice to see that you're excited about that matchup. When I look at that, I just see rage-inducing right there. So you're doing a lot better than I am in terms of keeping chill and seeing something like that. Me, on the other hand, I'm more interested in the Jinx, Nami, Caitlyn, Janna matchup because, you know, playing ADC as a main, you know, you kind of look at those and say, all right, how can I take advantage of these things moving forward? Both, one's going to be more of a poke sustain lane. The other one's going to, well, they're both going to be poke sustain lanes for the most part, but the sustain is definitely going to be stronger on MD4 side with the potential for actually going for a kill on Nami. I'm going to say Nami lands a bubble, Jinx lands some chain chompers, and you're going to say Jinx lands some chain chompers. You got just chain CC going for days, especially if you have someone else coming in for a gank, say Sejuani or Cho'Gath teleporting in, or even Echo for that matter. And a recent Jinx, oh yeah, that's right, recent Jinx, or a recent patch for Jinx, the W cooldown has been reduced, so that definitely is going to be great for chasing people down. So yeah, that I like the MD4 bot lane a lot more than I like the Final Light Gaming bot lane. Final Light Gaming's bot lane, it's more of a passive one. They just want to farm up. Honestly, I think you kind of want to put Caitlyn in a position where she can go ahead and get a lot of kills early on. So if, in all honesty, I kind of want to see Fizz roam down often, maybe even Fiora teleport down when things are kind of pushed in. But
Fizz also has the ability to teleport down. Both mid laners are also running teleport this game. There's all going to be a lot of unexpected influence that can come from across the map towards this bottom lane, which I suspect will especially hurt Final Light here because they have the pushing lane in terms of the Caitlyn Janna. So if there is a ward in that far brush behind them, an Echo suddenly appearing behind you can really put a hamper on any game plans you have to get that tower down. There's also a large mismatch in terms of the team fighting on both teams. On Team MD4, you have huge tanks in Cho'Gath and Sejuani, which are going to be really hard to bring down. And this time, they don't have the likes of Xayah to shred those tanks. They have the much lower damage Caitlyn. Additionally, MD4 also has a mid laner, which has a way to become untargetable and recover lost health. As opposed to Team Final Light, which has an exceptionally powerful split pusher in Fiora, and if Fizz manages to get ahead of this Echo, he can also split push the side lanes. You can see a potentially strong 1-3-1 composition coming out of Team Final Light here with two strong split pushers, which will be hard to answer for Team MD4.
I'm going to say the only way they'll honestly be able to answer it is to force Final Light into doing a lot of team fights, which they are really adequately prepared for in terms of their team comp. They just have to make it so that any one of them gets far enough ahead so that there is no choice. You have to have everyone there in that mid lane or in whatever lane they're in. Otherwise, like you said, the 1-3-1 split push is going to happen, and it's going to win.
Even if they try to force Final Light to team fight them, they do have the Janna, which offers an exceptionally strong source of disengage. I think that MD4 will need a source of follow-up engage to come through if they want to really punish that 1-3-1 split push, which might potentially come out.
Very true, very true. All right, so going a little bit further into that, it's kind of interesting to see that, well, just thinking about it, it looks like J4 is definitely going to be playing a massive part in this early game. Also, it looks like we might be getting a early game fight. So, yeah.
Level 1s.
Well, level 1s, everyone sees. Final Light saw everything, and they knew to scatter to the winds. Otherwise, things were going to end poorly.
I really feel like playing defensively and backing off was a solid choice. Neither one of these teams offer a lot of hard crowd control at level 1. You have Nami Bubble, and that's about it. But that being said, MD4 would have been the ones face checking the brush, so launching a Nami Bubble would have been completely blind going in there, and they would have had no way to know that they were all stacked in that brush.
Right.
I'm expecting a lot of focus from the junglers around the mid lane this game. Anytime you have an assassin versus assassin matchup, it snowballs completely out of control once either of them manage to get a lead over the other.
Right. And that's where J4 and Sejuani are going to come into play, I believe. Like always, junglers decide the tempo of the game and whether or not favorable matchups actually are favorable in the end. What it's going to come down to is whether or not J4 is going to show his presence early and allow Fizz or Fiora to get really, really fed really quick, or whether or not Sejuani is going to get the time necessary to make herself into the team fighting machine that she needs to be in order to kind of negate some of the massive amount of damage that is probably going to come from both Fizz and Fiora. So, how do you feel about the top matchup?
So the top matchup, in a straight-up 1v1, Fiora should win that match almost at all stages of the game. She has the riposte to evade the knock-up from the Cho'Gath, unless Cho'Gath uses his silence prior to trying to knock her up with Rupture.
Right.
That and the true damage coming in off of the Fiora will allow her to put damage down onto this Cho'Gath no matter how much health he actually manages to obtain. So I feel like this lane should heavily go in the favor of the Fiora. And Fiora is actually able to push in and roam down to pressure this blue buff.
Oh, and it looks like Sejuani's getting caught out. Fiora is going for Sejuani. She should be able to actually get that kill, but she is just a little too slow and unable to finish the job. However, it looks like Cho'Gath came down to try and help. And yeah, Echo looks like he wanted to go in, but it looks like he knew that Fizz was going in as well. Not really sure why he went in so far, knowing that Fizz was actually behind him. But he takes quite a bit of damage as a result of that whole situation.
Successful blue buff steal coming out from Team Final Light here. They were able with the top lane priority to generate by the Fiora pushing in the Cho'Gath. She was able to show up at that blue buff first and really chunk out that Sejuani. And because Sejuani was so chunked, they couldn't stick around to contest the attempted blue buff steal.
Right. But at the same time, they were unable to convert any of that jungle pressure into a kill. So we'll have to see if... and here we go. J4 is coming up for his first gank. Looks like he's probably going to get that kill on that on that Cho'Gath, and Fiora gets that last hit. Fiora gets that first blood, and it looks like Fiora is going to have that advantage during that laning phase moving forward.
Crucially, this is able to occur because the Cho'Gath...
Oh, and it looks like Echo might be getting ready to die here, but he is able to get out. Meanwhile, Sejuani is trying to come in, trying to get a few hits on Fizz, but it looks like he's a little fishy for her, and Fizz goes back in. He turns around, probably to see if he can get back into lane, and he is able to get back very quickly.
Flashes down on Team MD4 on the top side and mid and jungle, as well as TP down on Cho'Gath.
All right, so Looks like there was a little bit of a combo situation going on in bot with the Nami bubble and chain jumpers for Jinx. Meanwhile, it looks like Cho'Gath might be getting ready to get ganked again. Nope, it looks like J4 just chose to clear out that top jungle. Help Sejuani get those jungle camps cleared out as soon as you possibly can, because you know that's the main objective for every jungler. It doesn't matter who cleans the jungle as long as someone cleans it, right?
Early mobility boost from this Jarvan. So this says Jarvan is really looking to influence these lanes more, which given the matchups of this lane, it's extremely important that his team does well, because if they fall behind, I don't see them lasting very long once the mid and late game roll around.
Right. And I honestly believe that J4's next path is probably going to take him through mid in terms of a gank. He's got to do it before Echo gets his level 6, but it looks like Fizz is going to be on his own right now. And here comes J4. Flag and drag. Got the Fizz ult off, and we got the kill on Sejuani. And it looks like Echo is going to make it out. Although, oh, Fizz!
Wow.
Fizz with the flash in and the troll pole goes ahead and takes down Echo. There we go.
Flashing off that pole, it's the unexpected damage that comes out.
Yeah, there we go. Looks like Final Light Gaming definitely has pretty much answered their first main objective, start getting these carry mid and top laners fed. Fiora is definitely in a position to super punish Cho'Gath if he decides to roam too far away from his tower. And Fizz at this point, being 1-0-1, he's pretty much in a nice position to attack Echo as soon as he goes back into lane.
Both junglers really expected for the Fizz to immediately go aggro as soon as he hit level 6 and gained access to his ultimate. That being said, I really feel that Sejuani overcommitted going in on Fizz there. Because when the counter gank showed up, when Jarvan showed up, she was caught out and was quickly able to be killed by the two of them. Because Echo had no access to his ultimate and ran out of mana during that fight.
Right. So we're going to have to see if Cho'Gath or Echo are going to be able to kind of make a comeback from these early ganks. Right now, Cho'Gath has bought some armor. That definitely is going to be helpful, but at the same time, he is also behind 22 CS compared to Fiora, so it's definitely not going to be a great situation. And it looks like Fizz is going back in on Echo, goes ahead and troll pulls out of the parallel convergence, and he gets out of it pretty much unscathed.
Fizz got the early lead, so this Echo is really getting punished here.
We're saying I think this Echo might be a little more worried than he's letting on. As a result, he's probably a little more desperate to make plays. So as a result of that, it looks like he's probably going to be a little more aggressive moving forwards. So I think that Sejuani is probably going to need to start making a kind of a beeline to Echo. Otherwise, things are going to get a little more frustrating for that mid lane moving forward, and you never want to have a fed Fizz based off someone being a little frustrated.
Eventually, the Echo will get to the point where he can clear out the creep wave with 2 Qs, which will allow him to outpush this Fizz and potentially look to roam while the lane is pushing in his favor.
It looks like Echo's being flanked, and he goes ahead, gets ulted by the Fizz, and wow, that was actually kind of interesting to see him pull that off, but it wasn't enough. I'm gonna say Echo goes down. Here comes the Jinx rocket. It looks like J4 might be getting ready to die, but Fizz comes down and completely blows up Sejuani. Cho'Gath comes through, takes a bite out of Fizz, gets the kill on him. J4 is now probably a little scared right now, but at the same time, it looks like Nami is going to be able to spot him out, but J4 just gets across that wall using his flag and drag, and that is going to be the end of that.
This Fizz is just so slippery with his Urchin Strike and his Troll Pole. He was able to evade all of the damage coming in and output it back towards the Sejuani and pick up a kill as well. This is 2 kills going over to the Fizz, looking very, very grim here for this mid lane.
Right.
And unfortunately, when Echo uses ultimate to evade the damage from the fish, it brought him right back underneath the Fizz as well as the Jarvan. So he was able to get quickly Cataclysmed on top of and
Ended. Yeah.
and killed.
Yeah, he didn't have much of a chance after that. It was a very, very impressive play in all honesty, just because, like I said, he got through the churned waters, which is something I honestly wasn't expecting. But even still, like you said, it brought him closer to getting CC'd, and that CC allowed him to pretty much get shredded as soon as J4 and Fizz could possibly do it.
So the reanimation of Chrono Break has about a 1 second period before you actually reappear and do damage where you were. During that 1 second period, Echo is invulnerable and can't take any damage.
Right.
If you use it when the Chum the Waters pops, you take no damage from the Chum the Waters and are able to evade the damage.
Right. I'm saying, I think that's more of a timing thing too as well, because churned waters typically, it gives you a countdown, and if you don't have fast enough reflexes, you just take the damage. However, Echo definitely knows what they're doing in terms of their move set and movement abilities. So maybe Echo might be able to make something happen from this, but chances are Echo's probably going to need to start roaming at this point, because
The dragon going over towards Final Light down here.
okay, and yeah, it does look like Dragon's going to be going towards Final Light. It's a Cloud Dragon. So a lot of people kind of take Cloud Dragon for granted.
I actually feel like if you have an assassin, Cloud Dragon is extremely important. Especially if you get one early, it allows them to roam quicker, get down there, and influence the side lanes.
You can say that is very true. A lot of dive champions will definitely benefit from that. And it looks like Fiora's going in on Cho'Gath, decides to ult, but unable to finish the job.
Fizz is out of mana now.
Fizz is out of mana, but he is able to get out of a super sticky situation.
Jungler's fighting.
And the junglers are fighting. It looks like Sejuani should be able to get the kill. She does get the kill, but is Jinx going to live through something like this? She is able to get through. Echo goes in, and the stun from Parallel Convergence comes down. Looks like Fizz isn't going to make it out. Like, all that's left is Caitlyn and Janna. They're both running as fast as they possibly can. It is going to be a 2-0 fight in favor of MD4.
Cinderhulk finished for Jarvan. So there's not really going to be much damage coming out of these junglers, but I really feel like given Final Light's team composition, going for a full tank Jarvan is the proper call. You have more than enough damage coming out from your Caitlyn, Fizz, and Fiora, and without having a really tanky front line, it's going to make them being susceptible to being dove later on in the game once this Fizz and Fiora start split pushing.
Meanwhile, it looks like Fizz has a problem with Echo. He immediately comes back to lane and tries to one-shot him. Wasn't able to really do it, but got pretty close in all honesty.
Finished Protobot on Fizz, that's huge. More added mobility and active on it to do extra damage, as well as it gives him CDR and health to help him survive more and cast his obnoxious abilities more often.
Ha. Okay, now you're starting to sound like you don't necessarily like that matchup.
It's an assassin versus assassin matchup. It snowballs really hard in one direction, and I really feel like Fizz wins the matchup early on because he just has more damage in his kit.
Oh, okay.
And Echo is reliant on proccing his passive for trades. So when you go in on Fizz, you just have to make sure you Playful Trickster out before you take the passive proc from Echo.
Okay. You said that makes complete sense, and I see why you might be a little frustrated with that, because that sounds like that might be a little more work than any normal person might want to put into a fight. But at the same time, if you do want to do something like that, more power to you, because you got way more self-control than I do.
I always enjoy taking the skill matchups. I find them fun to play.
Oh, and okay. That snipe from Caitlyn ends up leading to a Nami death. The Jinx Rocket was kind of helpful, but at the same time, it wasn't able to kill enough minions. And it looks like Final Light Gaming is going to go ahead and take the inner bottom tower. Jinx is not really in a good position right now. She has too many people who would really, really be excited to jump in on her. Like right now, here comes the J4, here comes the Fizz. and it looks like she's gonna have to abandon this bottom inhib tower, although ults are coming out now. Sejuani goes ahead, she ults to J4. Fizz troll poles out. Janna tries to save everyone, but now J4 is going in. Nami goes and gets the kill on Fizz. J4 is running for his life, but it looks like Jinx is gonna get excited. She keeps running. Another rocket. Is that gonna be enough to kill this Caitlyn? No, it's not. Thanks to Janna throwing down the shield and kind of giving Caitlyn a little bit of a help in terms of her escape.
I feel like they overextended there a little bit. The TP came in from Cho'Gath, really was able to allow the engage coming out from MD4, and really was the deciding factor there.
Right. I know that Echo was definitely chasing that Fiora, but in all honesty, it didn't really look like anything was going to happen. But yeah, it definitely was a little bit of staying just a little too long in the area, because once Sejuani came through and flanked Final Light, it was pretty apparent that things were about to go south very quickly.
Infinity Edge finished for Caitlyn. That's big as well.
Right.
Huge headshot crits are always kind of obnoxious to deal with. That being said, the rest of Final Light isn't actually all that strong. All the power seems to be focused on towards this Fizz.
Right. So if they're able to go ahead and take down the Fizz, it looks like that might be able. Looks like MD4 might be able to create their own win condition based off of that idea. Fiora, although she was able to get that first kill, and she actually does have quite a bit of a CS lead over Cho'Gath. In fact, it looks like she has a 2,000 gold lead, and it looks like
Jinx is done.
Jinx might be getting ready to die, but thanks to her support, she was able to get out of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, right now there's a 2K gold difference between Fiora and Cho'Gath. That's quite a bit of money. But at the same time, Cho'Gath is building quite tanky to negate this as well.
The only thing this Cho'Gath really has to do in that side lane is survive and not lose too many towers for it. He needs to scale up, get his tank items, and become a nuisance in team fights.
Right. And it looks like there's a death bush forming around Dragon, and oh, they came out just too soon. Sejuani was about to run past, but it looks like Jinx was able to get out of that, because that looked like that was almost instant death with J4 running in at the speed of sound to try and go ahead and throw down that ult with everyone else around him.
The Cho'Gath stopped the engage there. The Rupture and the Silence came through. Caitlyn put down those lines of traps to block a corridor in towards that Dragon area.
So unfortunately, all they have to do is just take one of those out, and things manage to work out. And it looks like Final Light Gaming is going to be able to get that Inferno Drake now. MD4 is in hot pursuit of Final Light Gaming. You said J4 goes ahead and throws down the ult, and it looks like Echo throws down parallel convergence. Fiora is able to get her ult off, but Jinx is going to go down to this Fizz. Echo also gets Fiora at the same time. Nami is running for her life, but she's really lucky.
That bubble stopped the Fizz mid-Urchin Strike.
Yeah, pretty much. If it wasn't for the fact that bubble landed when it did, she would be pretty much sushi right now. Especially considering this Fisherman Fizz.
No. The Fizz, like the Jinx stayed alive for a really long time that fight. It was able to output a consistent amount of damage the whole time.
Right. And it looks like Nami was trying to help Echo try and get that gank off. And it looks like Caitlyn might not have necessarily paid any attention to the fact that so many people were actually in the area. But Nami, she gets left behind. Echo's running for his life right now, but I don't know if he's gonna. I mean, Sejuani tried to stop the Caitlyn shot, but unfortunately she was unable to get in the way.
It just wasn't enough damage coming in off of the ace in the hole to really take down the Echo.
Right.
And now Lichbane's finished for Fizz. This is where things get really bad if you're Jinx.
Right. This is one of those situations that would kind of make me a little more frustrated. I tend to play. I play a lot of different types of ADCs. Well, I play the two types of ADCs. One ADC is typically a mobile, and another one is, more mobile. Like the more mobile ADCs tend to be like Echo, Lucian, Quinn, people like that. Some of the more mobile ones are like Ashe, Caitlyn, or in this case, Jinx. When it comes to dealing with assassins, oh, and it looks like Echo is trying to start a fight, but this isn't really a good time to start a fight.
No, they're down a man. It's a odd man situation here.
Yeah. But yeah, for me, playing a more mobile ADC when I know that there are assassins around, that's definitely not something I really want to deal with. Especially considering, well, I mean, they have a tank line that definitely helps, but considering Fizz really doesn't care about your tank line most of the time when he goes in for you, it's not really much you can do about that.
I think the Fizz is going to be looking to set up flanks this entire game, like what we saw around the Dragon fight area. And given that he has finished his Lich Bane, the Jinx should just explode when he goes in.
Right. Which is something that I'm pretty sure MD4 definitely doesn't want to deal with. Oh, and the Jinx rocket almost gets the kill, and the Fizz unfortunately whiffs his ult.
That being said,
oh, and the Sejuani dashes in for the ult, and Janna pushes her out of range, but Fizz goes ahead, flanks around. We're gonna say, just not
a little
great.
fish on fish killing there.
Yeah, like it's like watching something on National Geographic in terms of the great Fizz goes after the poor defenseless Nami and turns her into fish sticks. And Echo is trying to do his best to defend, but thanks to Caitlyn's range, she's able to get those few autos off to get that mid-outer tower. And it looks like Fiora is going to be able to get this this top inner tower. She was able to get around that parallel convergence shield, and it looks like someone's TPing
TP
in.
for Fizz. I think it's going to be canceled. Yeah,
it was in fact canceled.
So what if the initial burst fails to kill off this Jinx from the Fizz, these team fights are going to be in a very bad place for Team Final Light. So from Team MD4, what I would like to see is a Mikhail's coming out from the Nami to heal up damage coming out from the burst, as well as a Locket of the Iron Solari from one of the two tanks to add an additional large shield to help the Jinx survive through the burst.
Right. I'm saying, you know, I think she might be getting ready to work towards that. I noticed she got a Tear of the Goddess. For all those who are probably wondering why is a support buying Tear of the Goddess.
She's very mana hungry.
Right. She's very mana hungry, and one of the passives that they added to Tear of the Goddess items is the fact that you actually get mana refunded when you use skills. So considering some of her skills are kind of expensive, it definitely helps with what you're doing during a team fight if you can continuously wave people and not necessarily have to worry about mana.
No boots from the Nami. It's interesting.
I mean, fish don't have feet, right?
You know, what, are they going to give them flippers or something?
You know, I can imagine that. That kind of makes sense. You say, but for right now, just looks like Nami's probably going to go ahead and get that at some point. She did get Ardent Sensor, so that does give her a little bit of move speed. It's not as much as a pair of boots, but at the same time, it is kind of helpful.
They're going after that tank.
Looks like they're going to get that tank, too. Fiora goes ahead, gets that ult.
That's a lot of damage.
Yeah, pretty much.
TP from the Echo. They might just dive him if they kill the tank. No, but the whole team's collapsing.
And here comes Sejuani again, and she throws down that ult, but it looks like Fizz is going to be able to get out. But Nami's not going to let everyone get out alive. But then again, it's not like anyone really has a choice in the matter. It looks like Caitlyn goes ahead, takes down this Echo. Caitlyn's going after this Nami. Oh, the flash gets around, and now the ace in the hole comes through. It's not enough to kill Nami, but it is going to be enough to get this bottom inhibitor.
There's just a lack of engage really coming out from the Team MD4 there. And when the engage finally did come through, there were enough tools to keep Team Final Light alive, enough for the bot lane from Team Final Light to rotate down there and really take that team fight and win it handily.
Yeah, and it looks like Oh, well, I guess Final Light wasn't able to actually get that tower in mid. Got it down pretty close, but they were unable to finish the job. But at this point, I think
Ooh, they're going for Baron.
Yeah, I was about to say, at this point, MD4 definitely needs to do something about this Baron, because with bottom pushing, they're going to be in an impossible situation where they have to decide between stopping the Baron or potentially stopping the Baron or stopping the bottom lane from pushing. And here we go. We got this team fight going in now. Looks like Fiora is trying to throw down damage. She is able to get the kill on Cho'Gath. Nami tries to disengage with the wave, but Fizz chases her down. Sejuani goes down to the Fiora, and it looks like this is going to be a pretty bad situation. 3 for 1 going in favor of Final Light Gaming. Whether or not they decide to push or go for Baron, it's going to be up to them, but it looks like they're going to go ahead and push down this mid tower.
I feel like trying to go for Baron there was a bit of a mistake. They didn't have the damage to actually take it down before Team Final Light was able to get down there to contest it. And when you have the Baron debuff, which increases how much magic damage you're taking against a fed Fizz, he doesn't even need to really hit his ultimate on somebody to one-shot them.
Right, and that definitely showed at the end of that fight. So now it looks like Final Light is in a super favorable position right now. We'll have to see whether or not they... well, they're going for Earth Dragon, which is definitely going to help them get that Baron when they decide to finally go for it. And it's going to be uncontested, of course, because right now there's quite a few super minions that need to be fought off. Meanwhile, J4 is going to go ahead and do some clearing in Baron, and Flag and Drag is way out. But yeah, it looks like at this point, Final Light should be going for Baron. With all the super minions pushing right now, MD4 is most certainly not in a position to actually counter that push. So let's see what Final Light chooses to do next. Will they go for top or will they go for Baron?
No TPs either. So I feel like the correct play here is to send the Fizz bot lane to put some pressure on there while you pressure Baron. And if one or two people show up to stop him, you can TP him mid and take the Baron with your 5 versus 4 or 3.
Right. But it looks like they're just going to outright try and do this as fast as they possibly can. MD4
is dying really quickly.
Yeah, MD4 can't see it, and chances are they wouldn't be able to stop this even if it came down to it.
I still think that that giving it up there was probably a mistake. They gave it uncontested, and now considering that it's a Caitlyn composition, they're just going to be able to push down the last inhibitor.
Oh, and it looks like J4 got caught out by Sejuani. Things are going pretty bad for J4. Echo gets the kill on J4, but looks like Fiora gets the kill on Cho'Gath. Fiora dashes in, takes down Sejuani for the double kill. Now Echo's trying to dance around the situation. Fiora is at a triple kill. Looks like Jinx and Nami are going to retreat back to base, but now it looks like there is a teleport coming through. Unfortunately, it wasn't done at the right speed, so now Jinx goes ahead and dies. Fizz goes ahead and takes down Nami. It's a 5-1 ace for Final Light Gaming, and it looks like they are going to take this match.
I really feel like the lead just became insurmountable at that point. They were even able to kill off the Jarvan at the start of that fight, and despite having their primary front line, the Final Light Gaming was just able to just run over that team fight. They just shredded through that Cho'Gath with the true damage coming out of that Fiora that I was not expecting a tank line to die that quickly. But there's just so much damage. It's a 3-item Caitlyn at 28 minutes, just shredding through them all.
Right. Like I said, Fizz was definitely doing a lot of damage there, but I was kind of surprised that J4 got picked off the way he did. I honestly was expecting him to live a little bit longer, or at least until his team got there, but he just couldn't hold on. And that kind of opened up the floodgates. Once he got out the way, there was really no way to stop the onslaught from Final Light Gaming in terms of how they were going to move forward after that.
Jinx was actually so scared of that Fizz that game that she built a Hex Drinker in the 3rd item instead of continuing down the damage track.
Yeah, and that's never a good sign for an ADC to go ahead and build something like that.
Unless you're Vayne.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of works on Bane, but even then, I feel like Mercurial Scimitar is probably a better move just because you get rid of the CC. And I believe that item should take the fish off of you.
The fizz latches, so unfortunately the fish will stay latched onto you.
Okay, they changed how that worked a little bit. All right, I'm going to say it's been a while since I've had to deal with Fizz.
Fizz is always obnoxious to deal with. His abilities give him... He's super slippery, a ton of bursts coming in. His W proc does an insane amount of damage.
Right. But yeah, you could definitely tell that the Final Light Gaming team comp was pretty well set on doing the picks, and they were able to pull off what they were aiming for very easily. With that, is that going to be it for the day? Do you?
I think so.
Okay, so it looks like that's going to be it for today. I'm going to say tune in tomorrow while we go ahead and do the finals section of our tournament. We have quite a few games scheduled, and we will pretty much be going through quite a few of them by the end of the game or by the end of the day. We could potentially have a really, really strong final. We have quite a few teams that are definitely contenders to make it a really impressive one. So please come back tomorrow and, hang out with us for a while. So with that, we're going to go ahead and sign off. My name is Strike Alpha.
And I'm Zephyr.
And we are looking forward to seeing you guys next time. Have a great night.
With devotion
Stood in the fire, burned with desire, love and emotion, dance with devotion. Stood in the fire.
shots increase, or like triple. I am ready.
Remember when
I am ready.
the waves would crash against our skin?